seriousness, I am very excited for our next guest, who is super impressive, but is also a good friend of mine. But if you want to cut that out, like when you get the MP3, I'll take a deep breath right now, and then I'll start with something real professional, and I'm not even going to laugh through it, okay? Here we go, friends.
You can just remind people that it's the middle of the night right now while
Yes.
we're recording this.
But I just got a text from my friend in India who's listening on the other side of the world.
Excellent.
And she's wide awake for her, and she's super happy that we're doing this Hopecast. But yes, please note that where I am, it is 11 p.m. and I got up at 3 a.m.
But it's the World Hopecast, and somewhere the sun is up shining on somebody's tent.
It really is. And
Or
igloo, made out of butter.
There you go.
And
You know that's going to be his next post on Facebook.
yeah. and why not, right? Let's have a little fun. Oh, dearie me. I'm going to friend him on Facebook and say, all you need to know is that I loved your butter and now we're tight. Okay.
That's right. And just before we jump in here, and I'm eager to get to Shelly too, we've got these amazing sponsors. We've been giving shout-outs to our sponsors all along.
Please do.
It's been a little while since we acknowledged Rock with Purpose, and the amazing and talented Matt Soren, who built our beautiful website for the Hopecast. He's also doing some fun things with his music. If you haven't checked out rockwithpurpose.com and Matt's music, you want to do that.
I saw him perform live. And
Yes.
it's legitimate talent, perfect mix. I really enjoyed watching him talk and share powerful messages, but then also just share with us his gifts and talents through music. He really is very, very talented.
And he did our website.
I know. And
So that's
he's
just-
like a triple
That's
threat.
really cool. We still, even though we're in the middle of the night, I'm looking around the room, and we've got about a half a dozen people here. More than that. I didn't look on this side. We got about
Left
a
and
dozen
right.
people here.
Left and right.
And we have copious amounts of goodies that have been brought in by our other sponsors. And by the way, everyone who is here on site, and if you can't sleep and if you're in the Provo area, there is some energy in this room. Come down.
Yes.
We
Yes.
are having a great time. It doesn't take much to make Michelle laugh. And come party with us. Seriously, pop in.
Caffeine is free and provided, and the entertainment is also
Lots
free.
of toxins.
But a big
Yes.
thank you to all those sponsors, to our volunteers who are making this possible. This is this huge, amazing collaborative effort that we're just feeling so grateful to have. I keep comparing it to a ball that we pushed down a hill,
Yes.
and now it's just picking up momentum and
It is.
taking off. And it's all thanks to you, our listeners, our sponsors, our volunteers. Thank you so much. And I'll be quiet while you introduce Shelly.
Well, we are to our next guest that I am thrilled to chat with. Shelly Coray is a wife, mother, inspiring speaker, trainer, and coach. She is the author of Master Your Mindset, 9 Keys to Gain Control Over the Mess in Your Head. She's also the founder of The Winner's Edge, a mental strength training program for youth. She created Master Your Mindset coaching program as a way to help you and your team clear away the mental barriers that keep you from success. Through her 16 years involvement in high school athletics as a coach and manager and 20 years as an entrepreneur, Shelly has learned the keys to developing the mindset for success, making and breaking habits, and achieving peak performance. Among all the successes she helps people achieve, most of all, she wants you to become the person God made you to be. And I know that's true. As I have interacted with Shelly both personally and professionally, I know I'm a better person and have become stronger in who I really am. And so today we're really going to dive into a topic that I think that Shelly really speaks to and teaches us about authenticity. And so I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about your journey and how you got here. Now, authenticity, I also want to just bring up, doesn't have to mean perfection, right? But we all have our journeys, our challenges, and our struggles and our trials. And we all see the realness of that. We have our failures, we have our successes, all of those things. But the authenticity is how we live and breathe and guide ourselves each day. So, Shelly, I want you to share a little bit about your journey, but then also tell us how you got here and why this message is so important to you.
Well, I'm really excited to be here. We are buds, everyone that's here. This is exciting. This is
Yes.
fun. And it is getting late, and maybe we're a little slap happy, but it's okay.
It's a
We're
good
having
time,
a good
right?
time.
Choose
Yeah.
joy.
Choose joy, exactly. Well, I kind of have, I don't know if it's that interesting of a story, but I was actually beat up by the second grade bully. And And after I got over the horror of blood dripping all over my brand new white Sunday shoes that I'd snuck out of the house in and I wasn't supposed to
You
wear
weren't
out.
supposed to wear those, Shelly.
It was like the only wrong thing I ever did as a kid.
That's right. That's what your mom
We're
said.
That's
interviewing
what
her
my mom
mother
said.
next,
Yeah.
right after this.
Right. After I got over that shock, just like every other kid, I was teased a lot. And I think I probably thought I was teased more than everyone else, but I'm old enough now to understand we all got teased. But I remember thinking, gosh, if those kids hate me enough that they would beat me up over it, maybe what the other kids have been saying are true. And then an even step further, when I finally kind of came around to, wait a second, I'm an okay person, it's okay who I am, but maybe other people don't want to see who I am. So I like the analogy that Jack Canfield gives, and it's really started to ring true to me, where we're all a diamond, and when people don't like the light that shines off of our diamond, that authentic light, we start to cover it up, or I call people mud flingers. Sometimes they throw mud at our diamond and it kind of sticks. And after a while, you get to that point where you realize that you're not very pretty anymore because you're covered in mud, and you want to be pretty, you want to appear like everything's okay. And so, Jack Canfield talks about how you cover it up with nail polish or spray paint or whatever to try and make the outside look pretty. And instead we're just masking and still hiding and covering up who we really are because we assume the world doesn't want to see it.
Yeah.
And I think if I really get honest with myself, that's my story. That I, from a very young age, didn't think that people wanted to see who I was. And I knew from a really young age that God had blessed me with some gifts and some talents that happened to be outward, that people see all the time. And that was really intimidating for a lot of people. And so I started really struggling with confidence. I became really toxic in my thoughts. I started looking for that evidence of I'm not okay, people don't like me. You get what you look for, right?
You almost find evidence for anything.
Oh, absolutely. And I got in that really toxic place of substantiating everything that people were saying and really believing nobody cared about me. Led to some what I call belief-induced depression. Not really chemical, but I led myself there through really toxic thinking.
Right.
And I didn't know how to change it, And so you'd sit in these assemblies in high school and they would say, oh, you have power to change your thoughts and you can be happy and choose happiness, that we say all the time.
Woohoo.
And I would feel like really good for a minute. And then they would walk out and I'd be like, now what? Like, how do I sustain this feeling? And I didn't know how. And I was really discouraged. But on the outside, I looked like everything was great because I was in all these really active roles in my school and in my community, and I was really good at acting like I was happy. But on the inside, I was just this deep, dark pit, basically. Till there was kind of two turning points in high school, I think, that were a catalyst for me. And one was after the first dance of my senior year. And it was just like every other dance I'd ever been to, didn't get asked once. I knew which guys I could ask. I knew which guys I could ask twice that would say yes to me. Because I couldn't stand being a wallflower. But I never got asked. And so at the end of that dance, I was really discouraged. I didn't trust myself to drive home. And it wasn't that I really wanted to leave this earth. I just didn't know how to deal with how I felt inside.
Sure.
And so by the time I did get home, had somebody take me home, I got on the phone, here it is midnight, and I got on the phone with somebody who I felt could see that true diamond. Hadn't grown up with me, hadn't seen all the stupid things I'd done, just could see that. And I got on the phone with him and I just said, hey, buddy, I'm not going to make it. I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to deal with this anymore, and I can't stand how I feel. And he just got real with me, and he just said, Shelly, who are you fighting? Because by then I was just angry, But then I'd been taught I couldn't even be angry at people. I was supposed to love them. I was supposed to be grateful for my enemies and, bless them that persecute me and all these things. So I felt a lot of guilt of being upset that people were still making fun of me, teasing me. And he just said, who are you fighting? So I listed them all off. And I started in second grade, and I could give you, I remember all the things people said to me. But here's the thing. It's not what people say to us that hurts us. It's what we say to ourselves after. Right?
Right.
Do we let it play? It's that internal dialogue, that music, or, all the different ways it's been presented in the last 2 days that we have this spinning through our head all the time. And I didn't know how to turn it off. And on the phone with him, he finally just said, Shelly, that's not who you're fighting. And I was like, you're right, I'm fighting myself. I'm not supposed to be angry. And I just started over again.
Even there.
No.
They're
and they're, it's only hurting me. It's that, drinking the poison hoping they'll die kind of thing. And finally he said, you are fighting an enemy and you're letting him win. I mean, you're playing on his team. Oh, that just ticked me off. Them's fighting words, right? And so
you're an athlete, you know about that.
Yeah. Well, and then it just made me so mad. All of a sudden, all this anger that I was bottling up, that I didn't know what to do with, I could turn on him. And he said to me, Shelly, the adversary knows that he's not, you're not a person who's tempted by drinking. You're not a person who's tempted by drugs or immorality or any of those things. He has to get you another way. And so he's working on your heart and he's working on your head. And you're letting him in and you're letting him win. And in that moment, I realized I got to fight back. Like, I can't play on a losing team. I already know how this plays out. Mm-hmm. And so I was really private about a lot of this. In fact, I found out just a couple weeks ago when my parents heard me speak for the first time, they had no idea. They didn't know I got beat up in second grade even. I thought, how does that get hidden from your parents? I don't know. But they had no idea about all this. So I guess I was better at hiding it than I thought. But I had little 3x5 cards, and I just wrote, don't let him win. And then I stuck it anywhere I could that no one would see it. So it was in my saxophone case, and in my locker, and on my mirror, and in my, my drawer and stuff like that. And it was that visual reminder that every time those thoughts came in, who am I really fighting? And am I really going to let him win?
Who is the enemy anyway?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it's definitely Satan, But I was...
Well, you had to get clear about that in your
absolutely.
own mind, because as long as you thought the enemy was you were beating yourself up.
Yeah, or someone else. I was blaming, so then I was in victimhood, like, oh, poor me, everyone hates me, everyone's so mean to me. Well, victimhood just keeps you stuck, because it's never my fault. So I was going between it's all my fault or it's not my fault at all. And I didn't know how to deal with those emotions. And so that really became a turning point. I had no idea what I was doing with my brain until 5 years ago when I finally learned how our brains work. But I really started changing a little bit, and it got me through that year. And the second thing, I guess, that happened that year that really made a difference for me was I got so sick of having bad days. And I thought, I'm just not going to have any anymore. That's funny, right?
That's a great idea, Shelly.
Yeah. How do you do that?
Just
stop having them. And I didn't know how to stop having them, but I knew that I couldn't keep thinking about them as bad days. I really felt like I was telling God that he'd screwed up on the day. If I told him it was a bad day, like, you didn't make this a good day, God, it's your fault, And so then I decided, every day is a good day. There's going to be days with extra challenges, certainly, but every day is a gift from God. And I at that time stopped my normal response, that victimhood and that martyrdom when people would say, oh, how you doing? And it's a tough day. I'm not feeling very good. You remember those days,
Mm-hmm.
We still have a lot of people in our lives who play into that role. Oh, it's just really tough today. And that's a really great reward for your brain when you get all that attention from people. And I was feeding on that attention, but I finally realized this is not how I want to see this. And so I started just saying back to them, it's a good day. It's a good day. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, right, it's a good day. Are you kidding me? Keep smiling, Shelly. It's a good day. Mm-hmm. But I kept saying it. And after a few months, it was a habit. It wasn't, I didn't have to consciously choose to say that. And a little while later, it was soon now my natural thought pattern. Not just my thought, but it was my feeling. It was my belief. And so now when people say, oh, I'm having a bad day, I physically cringe. I want to throw up because that word is so negative to me. I don't believe in bad people, and I don't believe in bad days. There's people who make poor mistakes, and there's good days with extra challenges. But until we start to, reframe how we see things, our perception, and how we say it in our mind, and how we say it out loud, it really changes everything. And that really was a turning point for me as far as the mess in my head. I mean, my book is my experience of the mess that's still in my head, but now I know how to deal with it. Right?
You just embrace the mess.
Oh, yeah, bring it.
But I think that's such a powerful concept. There are no bad days. There are only good days with extra challenges, and I think that truly is a way to master that mindset. And I think that your story really leads into that, to say, hey, listen, and we talked a little bit earlier about does fake it till you make it work. And on one level, it's not about being fake. It's about choosing that you can have a good day, right? And choosing that you can make that. And sure, that doesn't mean every day is going to be perfect, because life isn't perfect. We're human. We're going to have challenges. We're going to have struggles. But we can still choose to find the good in every day, and that's exactly what you're talking about in that mindset. So let's talk a little bit about your book, because I'm so happy for you that you have it out. I'm glad that it's out there in print for the world to hear this story, and I'm so glad that you're sharing it. But one of the things about mastering your mindset, you go through 9 different challenges, and while I know we don't have time to go through all of them, and I really want to dive into authenticity, I want you to share with our listeners that if they're in a place right now where they're feeling that lack of hope, or where they're feeling like, yeah, right, I just have bad days, what are some simple things that they can do to really change and shift that mindset to something more powerful?
Well, I think you have to realize that your input equals your output. And if you're not, I love the Zig Ziglar quote, if you're not, you are where you are because of what you've put into your mind. You can change where you are and who you are by changing what goes into your mind. And so I had to get really conscious of what I was listening to, what I was watching, that internal dialogue. It's a conscious decision daily to say, that's not where I want to go with that. That's not how I want to believe. That's not how I want to feel. I got to change my thoughts because my thoughts govern my feelings, right? And so I try really hard, and I'm not perfect at it, but I try really hard to put a lot of stuff in so there's not room for the hopelessness.
Yeah.
And filling my mind with things that motivate me and excite me and bring me hope. And I don't talk about it a lot in the book, but I'm developing, I call it the Rise Up goals. And it's 6 things. Is that how many letters are in Rise Up? 6 things that you do. I got to count for a minute.
I had to do the mental math too.
That I try to do on a daily basis. That really helped me. For me, it's keeping my spirit in charge. Because if my spirit's running the show, everything's okay. But as soon as I let Satan or my body take over, or that negativity, that cynicism, man, it's almost a hopeless cause. And so it's just being aware when those negative thoughts come up, I have to redirect the path. Wait a second. And I will say to myself, stop. And I'll just keep saying it until I physically stop the thought and say, now what do you want to think, Shelly? And I'll redirect that thought. And I've done that enough now that it's really natural for me. It's taken me 5 years of doing that.
It really is a practiced
Absolutely.
skill.
How do you get better at a sport? You practice. How do you get better at piano? You practice until you become, and are you ever perfect at any of them? No. But you sure can improve.
That depends on how we define perfect, because
Exactly.
you're supposed to be where you are.
Absolutely.
Were you here to hear Jeff?
I heard the
Jeff
tail
Wilson
end of Jeff,
earlier?
but I have heard him several times.
Well, and it's that idea of this is perfect. It doesn't always mean that it's pleasant,
Sure.
but it's perfect. And you just illuminated a very powerful question. What do I want to think?
Absolutely.
As if we have a choice, right?
Well, see, and that's the problem is I didn't think I had a choice for a really
That's right.
long time. That's that victimhood. And we gain a lot of gratification from victimhood, you know?
Sure.
And so as soon as I went, wait a second, you mean I actually have power? And I remember hearing Brad Barton, who was on earlier, which is part of my story too. I don't know if we'll have time to go into that, but I remember hearing him in high school, and he kept talking about this magic, this power within you, this power that you can harness, and it can change the world, and it can change your outcomes. And I was like, great, give me that. What is it, you know? And I finally figured out what it is, you know? And it's my mental
You already have it.
state. I already had it. I just didn't know how to harness it. I didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
That it's actually a choice. And so when people say, well, how do you do it? And I say, well, it starts with A, a conscious decision that you want to do something better. B, an awareness of what's actually going on in your head. And then C, a conscious choice of changing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I have all sorts of different tips and things with cards that they stick down in their clothes and all sorts of visual reminders so that you're consciously, consistently inputting the right things and redirecting that pathway. And if you don't, you're just going to stay stuck where you were in the same habitual thinking.
Right.
You have to consciously choose to change it.
Well, I love that, and one of the parts that I like in your book is your key number 6 of building your confidence, because I think that that's part of the story that really leads into the authenticity of where we want to go, is understanding, like, okay, so step 1, acknowledge that it's wrong, right? Step 2, figure out how you can change that mess in your head to be more positive, but then one step further of that is redeveloping the new things. What are the new places
What
that
do
you
you
feel
want?
the confidence in? What does that look like? So share with our listeners really the keys to building your confidence.
Well, there's several. These are my favorites. Look at my notes for a second. I think, well, for one, you have to understand what true confidence is. Because I grew up thinking that if you could get up in front of people and you could talk and sing and dance and whatever, that meant confidence. Or if you could carry on a great conversation with someone without being afraid, or a sales pitch or something, that meant confidence. And so I assumed that everyone who did that was confident. And people assumed the same from me because those were things I was doing. And then I realized that's not what true confidence is. True confidence is being able to walk into a room and say, whether they like me or not, I'm okay.
Yeah.
True confidence is quitting looking from side to side for validation and looking up.
Yeah.
And saying there's only two people I need to be okay with, and it's God and myself. And if I'm okay with them, it doesn't matter what anyone else around me is doing. And so the Rise Up goals are one of the fastest ways I know to develop that confidence. It's consciously putting in what you want. It's knowing who you really are, which was my big journey, that I got so far detached. My diamond was so covered in mud, I actually didn't know what was in there. I didn't know.
You hadn't seen it for a while.
I know, and I didn't know my natural gifts and talents. And there was a moment where, a time in our marriage when we were really struggling, not our marriage, but just emotionally, that I was introduced to some information that helped me really understand who I am and my natural gifts and talents and who God created me to be, and that the weaknesses that he gave me were there on purpose, and the gifts that he gave me were there to bless his children. And the reason why I was so unhappy was because I wasn't using them. I wasn't progressing. My confidence was so low. And so, there's a lot of different things that will affect your confidence, not living true to your core. When you have that cognitive dissonance of, I know I should be better and I'm not. I know deep in my heart that I need to live to these values and I'm just not. That will affect your confidence. Comparing yourself, obviously, with everyone else, challenging yourself. One of the things I noticed really quickly was that my spirit is not okay if it's not progressing. And I didn't realize how much I wasn't progressing as an individual until I was in this really deep, dark place. And when I finally started working on my spirit and how to build that and how to build my confidence and know who I really am and how to let, taking all the mud and the crap off my diamond and letting it shine, then oh my gosh, I'm actually a pretty cool person. And when I show up authentic, people actually like me. But see, we go around, my husband gave me this really awesome analogy once. He said, it's like we're all walking around with a glass shield, thinking it's protecting us. But everybody can see through it. And it's very fragile. So if anyone pushes it or, says something about you, it shatters. And we think it's protecting us, and it's just not. You can see through somebody who's not being true to who they are. Yet we assume if we don't show up true to who we are, people might like us better. Like maybe they won't like me if I'm real.
Right. They're scared of that. They're scared of being the real them.
Absolutely. And I totally get that because the real me wasn't accepted, I felt, for a really long time. And there are people that don't like me. There are people who don't like the real me. And I have to be okay with that. Yeah. So it's just showing up, having the courage, I think, to show up as God intended you to be, as he designed you to be. And so many of us don't know what that is.
Well, and you actually talk about choosing courage in your book, and about how, and just like we have to choose every single day to make it a good day and to have a good day, we have to choose the courage. Like that's not just going to magically happen. I mean, some people, it looks and appears that they have more confidence than others, but it just means that they figured out how to choose it faster, and to stop letting other things get in their way. And even for me, people say to me all the time, I can't believe you're a speaker. That is so scary, and I could never ever stand on a stage. And though for me, I love it. Hand me a microphone and I can't shut up. I think that's very clear as part of this World Hopecast.
That's where we get in
I
trouble
could just
together.
Go for a real long time.
We're up to 41
Yeah,
hours.
see, look at that.
There we go.
And I'm convinced I could have handled all 41 of those, because I just can talk and talk and talk. But at the same time, I still get nervous. I still have that piece of me that gets on a stage that feels very vulnerable. They can see me. And whether I hold up a glass shield or not, they can see me in so many ways and shapes and forms, and I want to choose the courage, and I want to choose that authenticity. And so now this is the greatest segue into what I think is a great and deep and needed conversation of being confident in who you are, choosing the courage to do it. But then, to me, the authenticity is the consistency of all of that. It's the on and the off. It's the in your home, it's out in the world. It's the on the stage, it's the off the stage. So what are some things that we can do to really embolden that authenticity and be who we really are? Some people know what it is and they just don't do it, and some people aren't sure what that means yet.
I don't know if I know what that means yet. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, we're a work in progress, right?
It's a process, not an event.
Well, I think I gut check myself a lot. I call it in the book, I call it gut check. And I also head check a lot. And I say, wait a second, Shelly, are you showing up true to who you are? Are you doing something, and often are you doing something out of fear of what someone else will say? Are you doing something to impress someone else? That's when I know I'm not being who I am. When I'm having a conversation that's trying to impress or trying to,
Right.
and I'm not just being heartfelt. And we've talked a ton about love and just truly loving people. When I'm in that mentality, I show up authentic. There's no way I can't. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so, but it's constantly telling myself, Shelly, where are you? Where's your head? Where's your heart today? And I go through a conversation with myself, daily. And I pep talk myself all the time. I'm a coach, so of course I know how to do that, right? But I'm constantly, telling myself, where do you want to be, Shelly? What do you want to achieve here? How does God want you to show up? Do you have courage to do that? And I love how you said, it's not that we can't all choose courage, it's how quickly figure out how, And I like to think, so I'm a hurdle coach. You think about a hurdle race, there are 10 barriers in a 100-meter hurdle race that you have to navigate. And if you don't go over them, you're disqualified. They are part of the race. But I think a ton of times we grab other hurdles off the side of the track and stick them in. And I'm going to figure out how to navigate 25 of these and try and do it gracefully. Our goal is to eliminate as much interference as we can between us and our goal or our mission or being authentic, whatever it is we're reaching. We want to eliminate as much of that interference as we can and then learn how to deal with the rest. And a ton of times, a lot of the keys in my book were my interference. And then a couple of those keys are now how to deal with what's left. When I am stuck with fear, which happens a lot still. Fear is my biggest issue that I struggle with. But now I have tools of how to work through that. There's, I think, 8 or 9 keys in there of ways that I work through fear that are very tangible, not just imagine everything's fine, okay, it's getting late.
Well,
Anyway.
so one of the pieces to that, though, that I think is really powerful for people to know, and something that I have learned from you, is that authenticity is the step beyond confidence, because that's where we interact with people, right? The confidence is what we feel ourselves. The authenticity is the way that we show up as we interact with others.
Absolutely.
Because you can be as authentic as you want in your home, but it doesn't matter unless that's being felt by someone else. And so I think that just like we learned from Jeff Olson, I can feel his authentic love. I can feel, just listening to him tell a story, that he loves everything, every stranger, every person on the street, because I can feel that he loves me. And that's a powerful feeling that on a very real level, and he even talks about how sometimes that's hard, right? We still judge other people, and authenticity can come and go and be fleeting, but it's the feelings that you give other people.
Absolutely.
And are you exuding confidence? Are you exuding love? Are you exuding faith, or whatever that is? And so what is your piece in terms of, all of these things come together in those interactions? And all of the nervousness, the fear, and the lack of self-confidence comes up when we're trying to interact with someone and be that authentic self. So how can we, in that moment, choose to be who we are instead of pulling up that glass shield?
I think the 9th step in the book is to develop an outward mindset. And that's something I learned from Chad Hymas, that it's not about us. It's about the other people we can bless. And for me, that pulls me into my authentic self so quickly when I'm like, wait a second, this isn't about me. This is about who I can bless. And I can't do that if I'm stuck in my own shell, worried about what people are going to think, worried about what people say, and how they're going to take me. I have to show up the way God intended me to show up, because he's counting on me to bless people. And he's given me a message and gifts and talents to really make a difference. And if I don't show up that way, no one else has those gifts and talents. So A, they go wasted, and B, somebody doesn't get the blessing that they needed. And that, again, it's just a gut check. Most of the stuff is just an awareness of what's going on inside my head and being able to control that. because that puts me in the right place, my
Right.
behavior in the right place.
Well, and I think that you and I had talked about before that one of the ways that we can tell that we're being inauthentic is that we're forcing something that doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
That you're thinking to yourself, I am going to be X, and you're forcing that to a place that that goes beyond, because that's not really who you are, who you want to be. And so we force things instead of really get clear on, this is who I am, and that's okay, and I'm going to be that, instead of forcing something that isn't.
Yeah, well, we get so caught up in, and you can tell when it's happening because you're like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, this feels harder than it should be. You
It's
know?
like a costume.
Absolutely. Well, it's, you know, it's the costume or that glass shield, and we just get so caught up in that instead of being willing to say, it just doesn't really matter. Like, I have to show up as me because that's who God designed me to be.
Right.
For whatever reason, flaws, mistakes, everything, all in one bundle, He made me that way for a reason. And if I go around saying, oh my gosh, I'm not perfect, and I'm not this and I'm not that, I'm actually telling Him He screwed up. I don't have that much guts.
Right. Right.
You know?
As if you know better, right?
Right, as if I could control that. So it's something I still struggle with, though. There are times when I really struggle to show up authentic because I am afraid people aren't going to accept it, and when it's a habit. So it all boils down to change. You have to be willing to change, and until you're willing to rewrite the script for yourself, how do you step into a new role? You know, and I find when I go back into old settings, I fall back into my old role.
Right.
And that's not who and so people...
But we're creatures of habit, and so much of what we are resists the change. And so if we can stay in an old pattern that's familiar, that's comfortable, that's what we know, but the true magic comes in being willing to do something new and to forge that path to say, I want to let go of what's easy to what's better in a really powerful, strong, an ownership type of way.
Well, and we assume, and I learned this from Dr. Paul, that we may be in a really crappy place in our life, but if we assume that the road to something better is worse than the pain we're experiencing right now, we'll often just stay.
Yeah.
So I may be completely uncomfortable at where I am, but I assume it's going to be worse to become something more. And so we're okay with mediocre. And that's when you have to, again, have that conscious thought of, what do I really want? And what's my why that's been talked about several times today? Why do I want it? And then when I'm putting that in my head, I'm not focusing on the discomfort. I'm focusing not on where I've been, but I'm focusing on where I'm going.
Yes. Oh, Shelly.
Which brings a lot more hope.
Yes. And juicy conversations. I just love it so much. Well, tell me this. Our time is coming to a close, and do we have our next guest ready and in the wings?
We do.
Okay. So here's what I want to know. I want you to tell our listeners where they can find your book and where they can find out more about you.
Okay, so my husband and I have a website, jimmyandshelly.com, and you can buy the book from there, or you can find it on Amazon. And there's contact information there, email, phone, just reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook as well.
I am going to share one other thing, because Shelly has a gift that we should have had her share today on the World Hopecast.
Oh.
And that I'm afraid that we can't in the time that we have. But I will say this, because I'm going to make her do it. It's going to be on our website for you to go find. And you might have to dig a little, because maybe she'll put on a blog post. Maybe it'll be like a treasure hunt. But if you find it, I'll bring you some butter. And your prize.
The butter prize.
They carry gold butter in the end. But I'm sure that once you find it, where it's posted, when she posts it, that will be treasure enough.
Oh, now I got to get it up tomorrow, huh?
Yep, that's what we're
It's
talking
sitting
about,
there.
my
It's
friends.
sitting there waiting.
It's sitting there. Come on, Shelly.
It's sitting there waiting.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you
here.
so much.
You're great. And we love
for
having
having
you as part of this, and I love having you as a friend.
Goes both ways.
It's all around the table.
All around the
It's
table.
like
I didn't
that.
make you cry, though. I feel like I let you down.
No, it's great. You got me all excited and all ready and jazzed to really be authentically me. And that's maybe the best gift.
Well, I'm excited to be along for that ride.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, you guys.